Alright, chat. I just want to teach everybody a valuable life lesson to start. This set could be an incredible disappointment, so I want to temper your expectations. So, we played this deck once before, and it felt kind of reasonable. Well, this is only our second time playing this. We've got some card advantage in Expressive and Glimpse. We've got good interaction in Unholy Heat and Bonecrusher Giant. And then we've got a mix of threats here that are a little bit clunky for Historic overall, but they ended up working okay last time. So let's go ahead and jump on into some gameplay with this and see how it feels today. Fair warning, it could be a giant disaster. So, I actually think if we play into control decks, we'll have a good time, Dwight. I think this deck has a lot of good tools for the control matchup specifically. Murder this before it gets bigger. I don't think Battle of Frost and Fire solves any of this deck's problems, which is why I'm not playing it. Against a lot of the decks in this format, you want to kill their stuff with 1-for-1 removal early, not wait for them to build up a board and sweep them. Came for the gameplay, stay for the bad jokes, would love a 10-minute break. I got you, Sane. Thanks for the 23 months. This is a part where they play a squirrel and then we concede. Good. That could still be a squirrel. Yeah, alright. So for people not familiar with the opponent's deck, Soul Warden, Heliod, and Scurry Oak allow my opponent to gain an arbitrarily large amount of life, make an arbitrarily large number of squirrels. It felt very Magic the Gathering in the way that it was bad press a pick. It was like kind of a classic mid-range deck that just like didn't have answers line up well into other things and felt pretty thoroughly outclassed. Got these. In the aggressive matchups, we want to trim some of our 10 2-mana card advantage spells. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get a formal loop interface, but improving the interface of Magic Arena so it matches what we have on Magic Online would be a good start. Having save targets and auto yields for triggers would go a long way. To be fair, Precipic, it seemed like it was a fine metagame deck. It's just not the style of deck that can be good into both aggro and control. Like, the aggro matchups felt pretty good, but there's just, like, enough hard control on the Runeterra ladder right now that that's just not a matchup you could ever win while still being good into aggro. It was a deck that desperately felt like it needed a sideboard. Is a life gain combo one of this deck's worst matchups? I'm gonna answer your question with a question, Timid Assassin. What happened in the first game that we lost? Can you describe what occurred on your screen that ended up with us losing the game? Oh, you know what? Honestly, maybe I should let this resolve and just Flame Blast Bolt it. That's how you want to think about, are my matchups good, bad, or otherwise? You want to think critically about what occurred. My sequencing here is definitely less than ideal. I should have killed the Thalia and then I could have done this on 3. Hello, Mina. Why would you want to replace main deck Soul Guide Lanterns with Grafdigger's Cage? Can you explain? You didn't answer my question, Timid Assassin. You stated a generic statement. All right, chat. This is a really important lesson for everyone, for everybody in Magic the Gathering. If you're gonna play a format like Historic, you have to accept that sometimes you're just gonna get fucked. There's just like, it doesn't matter what your deck looks like or how you change it or what you do. Some amount of the time, they're just gonna rail you. Everything's gonna come together, their combo's gonna reassemble through removal, and you're just gonna die. It's just a part of Magic. Magic has a ton of non-games in it. Sometimes you're gonna lose because you mulligan, you're gonna lose because you stumble, you're gonna lose because you flood, and in brutal formats like Historic, you're gonna lose because the combo deck just had it. And you have to accept that and roll with the punches. You have to just let it roll off and move on to the next one. To answer the question about that matchup specifically, I'm gonna say this after they just rolled 2 combo draws in a row. I actually think that matchup's pretty okay because we have a lot of good, cheap removal, and we have creatures that can block their things that we don't have to kill that also generate card advantage. It doesn't mean you're going to win all the time, but I think this deck has good tools to be competitive in that matchup. Do we play Cube? Yeah, we actually just finished 2 Cube drafts for the day. If you check out my YouTube channel, we've done 8 or 9 Cube drafts with the current Cube that's leaving on Thursday. There's a bunch of drafts up there. Cube is actually the only form of limited I play. Not a big fan of Magic's typical limited formats, but Cube's a special sort of fun. Yeah, take another glimpse. It's kind of like a draw 2. Have my draw 2, draw 2. I think the current Cube is like a solid like 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. I think Control's a little bit overrepresented in the current Cube, but overall it's fine. I don't think I'd say it's my favorite ever, but I also don't think it's bad. Bant enchantments, you say. Now, this is probably a matchup that's bad for us. My blue-red deck isn't particularly aggressive, and our interaction does not line up well into a bunch of enchantments. So if they're playing the 9 Lives Solemnity specifically, we're gonna have a real bad time here. Is there a particular set you want to come to Historic? Yeah, Shadows over Innistrad has just an incredible amount of cards that I just love playing. That's not to say this matchup is unwinnable, but We're gonna have to try and be aggressive in our deck that's not particularly aggressive. Ooh, opponent's got some spice. Monk class. I'm taking the blue stars to mountains. It doesn't matter. I don't need 4 blue. Why don't I like normal limited? Because there is a difference between normal... There's a difference between interesting board states that occur in mid-range games of Magic and the average limited board state that Magic generates, which is just 2 people awkwardly staring at a stalled board until someone draws a bomb. I like attacking and blocking in constructed formats when it's good because usually there's interesting decisions to be made, and a lot of the time in limited there's not particularly interesting decisions while the board is stalled. And that's subjective. I know a lot of people enjoy limited and board stall type things, but I just don't. Yes, Pierogi's feelings there are identical to my own. Cube tends to have enough power level in it that it breaks the things that are kind of typical of Magic's other limited formats because Cube's a higher power level on average. Could not agree more. For people wondering why I didn't kill this, it has Shroud because of this, because it's an enchantment. Thanks for the follow, Dr. Fildergriff. Rest in Peace and Grafdigger's Cage are very common main deck cards in this format. They have protection from Aegar, so this can no longer hurt them. I think we're probably dead at this point. In fact, I think this matchup is bad enough that I'm going to go ahead and... I want to just concede the match. I'm just going to concede the match. All right, I'm going to give our Giants deck one more try before we pivot over to playing the other deck that almost won the poll, which was green-black mid-range. Yeah, enchantments isn't very popular. Having a bad matchup there is fine. I did warn that this could be a train wreck when we started. Yeah, not only does the enchantment deck cost a lot of wild cards, but it requires a lot of wild cards on things that are very narrow that won't be played in anything else. Kadias, were you the person just playing the enchantments deck? I assume because you just came in and said GG's after. I think we're gonna do this. I want to try and hit my 4th land drop next turn, and Scrying 2 gives us the best chance to do that. I mean, I don't care about my rank at all, so I'd much rather, we want both of these. I'd much rather just concede a matchup that's super slanted rather than sit there. We'll probably get to the Gyruda deck at some point. Sword and Shield. I've got a bunch of historic decks loaded up, and we'll probably play through most of them eventually. So this doesn't have Delirium, but it still gets to like look at 4 cards and put one in my hand. So I'll go ahead and cast it out here since it's 4 mana this turn. I think Smallpox is kind of an awful Magic card to play against. Smallpox is one of those cards like Wasteland that like punishes people who are experiencing variance even more, which I think makes it a not great experience on average. To the person who talked about Grafdigger's Cage versus Soul Guide Lantern in this deck earlier, a big part of why Soul Guide Lantern is the ideal graveyard hate game one is because Soul Guide Lantern serves as an artifact we can get into our graveyard to help enable Delirium for these cards. It's part of the reason we want this. Why do they just Memory Deluge and then miss another land drop? Did you put Thoughtseize in the same category as Smallpox? No, not at all. Smallpox and Wastelands are cards that specifically attack your opponent's mana base. Is the thing that they do that's kind of offensive. So if we cast this, it gives us a giant. Yes, Cage does also miss the captain, is accurate. Which is weird templating, because the captain puts them into play from hand, which is strange. Maybe I should have taken the other Soul Guide there to get the Memory Deluge. That might have been right.
I won't hide from the world any longer. No time for a break.
Now, thankfully, I do have 1 mana Murder in my hand here. And Library Exile. Just a purr. Thanks for the 10 sub-gifts. That's super generous of you. Happy Tuesday. Soul Hand, Library Exile. Make our land drop for the turn. And we can sack this Soul Guide Lantern to draw a card, which gives us Delirium, which lets Unholy Heat kill Teferi.
This is hardly.
Thanks, Just. We did cast Obliterator a few times. He is a good boy. Yeah, Unholy Heat is super powerful. It's honestly, it's probably one of the strongest cards in this format. From an individual power level. So you get to grab their Memory Deluge out of here. This also keeps their Search for Azcanta off of flipping for a little while longer, which is nice. Start with Glimpse. See what we find. Would love a Prophetic Titan. We can go land into Rimewall, and then if Rimewall resolves, we can flashback Glimpse. If it doesn't resolve, we can Invasion. And to really see our card advantage get to start flowing. I think the creature matchups and the control matchups with this deck specifically are pretty reasonable. Actually doesn't do anything. And then, Prismari Command can shatter this next turn. Sweet. We're in a pretty good spot here. If you want to shove Gandalf in a box, I think our deck's an excellent choice for doing so. Go to 15, no blocks. I agree. Ward is an excellent mechanic. It's such a good design compared to Hexproof. So much better. I said the Giants are invading. My hand's actually kind of great, so I think we go make a treasure shatter. We're gonna cast a Prophetic Titan this turn. And remember, when this thing has Delirium, it not only draws a card, but also domes our opponent for 4. Yo, dog, I heard you like card advantage. So you had your card advantage, draw some card advantage. I'm glad we stuck it out. Like I said, those first matchup was a little bit unlucky with their draw, and then we hit a pretty polarized matchup, but like, this has not been a particularly close match, huh? Yeah, our deck's got a ton of card selection. Very, very, very satisfying in that way. Okay, then what do we want to trim here? Our main deck's actually set up pretty well here. We might have slightly too many cards for this matchup in the board. Maybe Prismari Command cuts, shattering the Gear Hulk was fine, but it's not necessarily great all the time. Yes, yeah. If you wanna build this deck, well, I don't think it's top tier by any means. It's really a pretty cheap investment. The main deck, the only rares are Bonecrusher and lands, and the lands are obviously all good wild cards investment. All of these other giant cards and stuff are like commons and uncommons. Things like Prophetic Titan, and these are all uncommons and stuff. So, I mean, if you craft it, all of the cards that cost real wild cards are like cards that will go in other places, which is great. Thanks for the 13 months, Urquan. Welcome back. Well, I'm glad we drew a land for the turn since we bricked on that Expressive Iteration. Get technically 3 shots at a land next turn. We can draw with both lanterns, though we don't really want to have to do that. Nice. Okay. So I think we're just gonna drop this. Is blue-white the most common control configuration in this format? Jeskai is probably, but blue-white base for sure. There's varying third colors sprinkled in, but I think that Azurius core is definitely what we see most frequently. No, so I don't want to counterspell this because if they Teferi Hero of Dominaria here, I want to be able to dispute that. So it's pretty important to have a counterspell up on their 5th turn cycle. Poor Grixis. The wards do stack. Yeah, you can have multiple ward 1s, they all trigger. Now, if they go land, Teferi, dispute my dispute, we're in trouble. But outside of that, we're in a pretty good spot. And draw another card here. It technically has 2 ward 1s. They're slightly different the way they play out. So this is a little aggressive on my part, but instead of taking the extra land, I'm going to take this 4/3 and play it out. Now they could have land Teferi negate my dispute here, but then I have pressure in play, so it's not nearly as bad. It's gonna end the turn for now, I think. Yeah, can't be countered, Chip. I should have. Oh, they have enough mana for that too. We were in such a good spot until they played their card that's impossible to interact with. They're just like ahead by every metric, and then this happened. You know, I think I messed up here, actually. I think I should have played 2 Bonecrusher Giants for just any castable spell. Yeah, I should have played these 2. No castable spells, deal. Sometimes lucky. Please die. Alright, their bomb's not unbeatable if they don't draw any spells, Chip. How many cards did we just see? Enough. Enough. This deck is really good at churning. Chat, have you ever played Blue-Red Phoenix and thought to yourself, I like drawing all of these cards, but this deck is too good and I need to be a bigger hipster than this deck will allow me to be? Then boy golly do I have the blue-red deck for you. Throw those Phoenixes in the trash can and craft some Giants. Hipster City is ready to welcome you. It is much cheaper to craft too. Accurate. I think Wellspring, probably 5-color Niv. Could be Cat Oven. A lot of Cat Oven decks have moved past Wellspring though. You're right. Theoretically, that could be what they're doing still. Looks like Niv. Instead of putting can't be countered on things, I kind of wish they would, like, put a version of Ward that worked on the stack. I think would be sweet. Just, like, give you what you're going for, which is this card is harder to interact with. Afternoon, Aragorn. Which deck's main deck Cloth is? This one. This is a tough nut for us. It cuts off our Delirium cards. Cloth is a good main deck card for a lot of the same reasons Soul Guide Lantern is. Just a lot of incidental graveyard stuff in this format. And library, exile. Might be right to keep the second invasion there for more scry power.
What must be done.
All right, Aegar plus Unholy Heat kills Teferi here. Oh, actually, we can just Aegar plus Invasion, right? Sedge. This needs to draw... This needs to draw an instant for me. Prismari Command would be ideal, I think. I think we're dead. A little flooded. Hey, if we draw an Expressive Iteration next turn, or a Glimpse the Cosmos, the enchantment's going to die, and then Unholy Heat still has a window to kill this Teferi. Need to be able to Unholy Heat Teferi next turn though, so need a live one. Bolt, Snap, Bolt. Is Bolt, Snap, Bolt competitive in Modern currently, chat? Does anybody know? It's been a while since I've played. It's not. Sedge. Yeah, I go ahead and pack it in here. Third time they draw with Teferi Hero of Dominaria, chat. If they're not in burning them out range, the game is over. Aether Gust is good here. Mystical Dispute is good here. Squash is actually probably better than Unholy Heat. I'm gonna play a few of each, I think, but Squash in particular, not needing a graveyard to deal 6 is good. It's a Negate matchup. It might be a Negate matchup. Both Bolt and Snap are barely playable in Modern. Wow, really? That's wild. What are the removal spells people play? Oh, the Prismatic card is the new... Oh, and Unholy Heat. Unholy Heat and Prismatic Ending. Gosh. Yeah. That's so crazy. But remember, chat, Modern's a non-rotating format. Wink, wink. Is Rimewall here? Because they're probably holding up the Exile a mono-colored thing, and now this is Ward. Remember, chat, just because your cards will always be legal doesn't mean they'll always be playable. We want both lands here. I'm not wrong, it's the children. Is Giants viable in Alchemy? I haven't been playing enough Alchemy to know. I'm waiting on the Alchemy balance patch to dip back more into that format. So the 27th, we're about a week away from our first Alchemy balance patch. Library Exile. They officially say, oh God, why would you hurt me this way, Timid? Timid is technically correct, chat. Wizards technically didn't say we're guaranteed to get a balanced patch on the 27th. They did technically just say that's the earliest possible it could happen. Oh God. Oh God, why? Oh, why would you point this truth out to me? Why couldn't you just let me be happy? Why couldn't you just let me be happy with the delusions I've built for myself? Oh no. Oh. I take it back. It's too late. You've let the genie out of the bottle and my copium is gone. Wake up, Hogland! There never was a balance patch. There are no balance patches in Ba Sing Se. Oh man. This game was a lot easier when my opponent didn't cast any spells. Thanks everybody for hanging out this morning, by the way. I've had a few new follows. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jeff Hoagland. I stream full-time here on Twitch in general. We play a bunch of card games. We play Magic the Gathering and Legends of Runeterra, the two I've been playing most recently. We do a lot of Constructed for Magic, Historic. In the meantime, while we're waiting for an Alchemy patch, we also do some non-card games. We're going to be wrapping up the stream later today with some more Guardians of the Galaxy on the PlayStation that I've been enjoying. We also play some Pokemon Unite. It's a game my wife and I play unhealthy amounts of off-stream together. Bottom Aegar and keep lands and card advantage here. Always a lot of good stuff going on. Are there any cards we want to see buffs? There's honestly so many cards that would be good buffs. I don't even have a list. Like, Magic has so many bad cards that are printed as for limited that, like, the list of ones you could make better is huge. Oh, we do have a buff list command. There's lots of shitty, unplayable Magic cards. Please make any amount of them better. Past Jeff is so funny. When Past Jeff isn't screwing me over, he's got a lot of good things to say. I think we're gonna die to a 2-mana 5/5 chip. We might be unfortunately be dead. If they can't kill Aegar here, I get 3 looks or 4 looks at a Squash next turn. But if they kill Aegar, Squash is not castable. Yeah, they have Helix. I assume we're just dead now. Are the Hoaglandia opens with PTQs attached going to become a monthly thing? I have set championship qualifier invites for February, March, and April from MTG Melee. So for February, March, and April, the Hoaglandia opens will also be set championship qualifiers. Also, shout out to Metafy and Cool Stuff Inc. as well. Cool Stuff Inc.'s been sponsoring us in perpetuity, but Metafy signed on to sponsor our next 3 opens, which is great. Helps us pay for production staff. How did that tournament turn out? It went pretty well. We only had to show 1 cat oven mirror in like 11 matches, so that was a success. Any idea what the formats will be? They'll all be historic or alchemy. We didn't have to DQ anyone for not following the directions. All right, 3 draw 2s and a Bonecrusher Giant. Not a fantastic hand to Thought Season 2. Yes, Jim Davis is kind of my in perpetuity second caster, because after working with a lot of people, I find him and I mesh the best together. Really like working with Jim. I have not reached out to anybody yet about being our second commentator, our third guest commentator. I should do that. It's on my to-do list. Maybe I'm supposed to take the Unholy Heat there, actually, to kill a Pyromancer. Yeah, everyone that I've worked with has been good in their own ways. I just think Jim personally hits my personality and the way I do commentary the best as a second. He's also a good dude. Like, he's someone that I used to chat with pretty consistently when we were doing SCG tour stuff, so I like working with him. Okay, we're getting Revolt. What a revolting play. They killed Rimewall Protector, but there'll hopefully be plenty more giants in our future. Actually, just the unluckiest. Exile their Faithless Looting here. I could be right to take their Cling to Dust, actually, too. Their Cling to Dust can take my Glimpse before I can flash it back. Yeah, red-black Shadow is interesting from the opponent. So I think we Rimewall here. Then we get to get our glimpse on Bonecrusher. Sounds great. So these have to attack if they have Delirium. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to pass, wait for these to have to attack, and then exile their graveyard so they lose flying. To eat one of those up. And library exile. I feel like decks like what this opponent is playing are kind of a tough sell in this format, in large part due to the fact that there's so much incidental graveyard hit. They draw Black Source here, they could replay a Darcy from the bin. Not that Black Source. Brutal. Probably one of the worst draws in their deck. It's like casting Dig Through Time, chat. It's so good. Yeah, Prophetic Titan really shines in these mid-range and control matchups. Really powerful effect. The fact that it can dome your opponent with the 4 damage it deals is just like real obnoxious. Concession Giant? Don't you love when your Flame Tongue Kavu draws another Flame Tongue Kavu, chat? I do. That's adorable. Trigger. Going out in style. Yeah. Honestly, our main deck here seems pretty good. I don't even know that I really want to sideboard. Maybe Prismari Command is worse than some cheaper removal. Just like swap these for a couple of braids. Unholy Heat is important because they are a Death Shadow deck, so being able to kill slightly larger shadows will have value at times. Occasionally, we'll need to kill 3/3 Deathrite Shaman, or Deathrite Shamans, Dragon Rage Chandlers as well. Sir Size a lot. Thanks for the follows. Oh, True Lags. I missed yours if you're still here. Welcome to the channel this morning. This deck is a very reasonable budget deck. And with the lands that you craft for it, it'll transition into something like Blue-Red Phoenix really well. It's a little low in terms of power level, but it plays genuinely good games of Magic in the matchups that it's competitive in. Your creature and your control matchups are super reasonable. Okay, so we'll do Fabled Passage as a tapped land on 1, untap 2, untap 3. And a base is good to go. These are a few of my favorite things. It's funny, Glimpse the Cosmos is actually better than Expressive Iteration would be in a spot like this. Well, there's no lands in there, so I guess we'll take the Soul Guide Lantern. You can trip down the line for us. How much damage do we think they can do to themselves here? Do we just, like, draw a card with this and then Unholy Heat the Shadow? I think so. Wow, brutal. It's rough. Was a very good cling. So the follow kisser probably did here, honestly. I think I'm supposed to board in the squashes. Maybe I am. Maybe squash is better than Abrade. It's a lot of clings. Yikes. Alright, let's put our squashes in for game 3. It's probably a mistake not to have them in for 2. Just try and keep the board clear. There's a good chance Deathrite Shaman is bad in Historic and Alchemy. Yeah, Deathrite Shaman's Pioneer legal and doesn't see any play there, right? If I recall correctly. Forgot to change our stream title to say historic when we stopped cubing, chat. Been playing historic for an hour. Schlappy. The US government letting people apply for 4 free at-home COVID tests is like better than nothing. But it really would be nice if they would have just been like other developed nation and subsidized the price of them to an almost free amount. Anybody in chat from Germany? Is it true that you can get COVID tests there for like 79 cents or something like that, like less than $1? Or is the article I was reading exaggerated? A workplace in Canada provides one every 2 days for free. Wild. Well, workplace isn't the government. That's somewhat common here too that people have to get. There's technically free testing available in the United States, but a lot of it are the slower PCR tests. They're not the rapid tests. I mean, we should have kept the Bonecrusher Giant. I actually don't want to deal damage to them, right? I think we just chill. In Norway, a box of 5 rapid tests costs $50. That's about half of what they are in the US, I believe. What do I want to do damage? They're a Death Shadow deck. So I kind of want to get things built up so that way I can kill them in one burst, if that makes sense. Take an iteration. We already played my land for the turn. I'll do this, exile their looting. Probably gonna cycle one of these. Yeah, what Beck said. Generally speaking, playing against Death Shadow, you want to kill them very slowly and then burst all at once. Yes, the PCR tests are more accurate than rapids. Which is why a lot of places that require a negative test require you to explicitly go get a PCR. I was confused by your line, but then I read the card and I'm no longer confused. God bless. hand. Library, exile. Not the red source I wanted for Christmas, but better than missing. Just go ahead and step on Darcy here. I'm just working up to a lot of cards here in hand too, though. Yep. This Beaumont's about to draw 4 cards. Really? Got rid of my threat. That's interesting. So I'll draw 4 here. Thankfully, we're not in any danger of running out of cards either, so we're in an okay spot for now. Oh my god! Fuck, I hate that templating. This it's one ability, so it lost its only target, so I don't get to draw a card. God, that's trash. For what it's worth, I think that's one of Magic's rules that's awful and should be changed. Obviously, I just wasn't thinking about it here, but it's one of those things that's super unintuitive to new players and leads to play patterns like this spot here. It's just like, it doesn't really make sense that this works that way. If I remember when I've gone face, I think I would have just chosen to do nothing. I think I would have just chosen only one of the abilities. I would have just drawn cards and just like blocked this. I would have given them one more card off of it. God, that's such a beating. Fuck. So, and for people that are newer to Magic, in Magic, when a spell or an ability loses all targets, it's countered. So because it's actually why a lot of things that draw cards and do something else say target player draws cards, so that way you can't just like lose the target. This attack might have been wrong because of their shadow. It's a pretty frustrating sequence of events. Yeah. Just wasn't thinking about it. Really need one of our pieces of card advantage here. We have a lot of them. Expressive Iteration. How about another land, shit? Can you? I actually don't know. When it enters the battlefield, choose one. There are 4 more card types. Choose both instead. I actually don't know. Never draw 2s if we had this game. 1 Expressive Iteration. 1 out of 7 and 22 cards. We actually just can't block here because they just get to recast it with Luris, so I have to take 4. Sure, I would have gone to their dome then, rather than. I wouldn't have targeted the Beaumont Courier, chat. I wanted to draw a card there. Drawing a card there would have meant that we'd be unlikely to be in this spot we're in right now, where we're just top decking and bricking and dying. I don't play Guardians of the Galaxy. This deck has not been very good. Kind of over Magic for the day. Yeah, maybe it's better to hit the Beaumont earlier too. It's drawing straight bricks while they drew a bunch of gas. It's just real shit.